welcome to Talking Gamers match preview of the FA Cup as West Ham United travel north to take on the Rams as they take on the only team, well, one of the teams whose name I've now changed the pronunciation of since moving to England. It used to be Derby, now it's Derby. Gonzo, before we get on to them, how's your opinion about the FA Cup changed since we did the preview for the previous game against Brentford?
Oh, it hasn't changed at all. I don't think. No. I could well do without this, quite frankly. So, and obviously for those of you that might have only recently subscribed to Hammer's Chat, this is not a long-standing view. We love the FA Cup over here. We would absolutely, under normal circumstances, take what do we say, Geo? So like 16th in the league and an FA Cup win. You know, absolutely. This has always been the theme of this channel. Just slightly different this season, bearing in mind the turmoil the club's in and the fact that there's probably a more achievable trophy. We're already in the knockout rounds in Europe. I'm not sure we need an additional distraction here. So no, my view's not changed, mate. Yours clearly has.
Yeah. I mean, partly because when the Brentford game came round and it was FA Cup time, I got swept up in it a little bit, and I thought, oh yeah, because I've seen some FA Cup games prior to the West Ham one. And then we obviously won, and it wasn't a classic game. It was quite boring, but we still won. But now it's been, 8 days since our last game. There's 5-6 days till our next game. There's plenty. The last round, there was games quite close proximity to the FA Cup. When we played on the Wednesday, then we played Brentford at the weekend. I didn't like that. Not the case this time round, actually. And we've got a little bit of leeway either side. And I'm not saying we have to prioritise it. We don't have to do that. We can rotate the team still. But yeah, in going into the last round, I was a bit like, we could do without this, but actually now I'm a bit more, no, I want this. I want to win. And listen, if we do win this game in 2023, we'll have won 3, drawn 1 and lost 1. I mean, it's decent form. There's obviously context to that, which is the performances that haven't been great and who we've played, etc., etc. But I think it just gives us an opportunity to get momentum going, keep the feel-good factor increasing marginally bit by bit, which I'll take any positivity at the minute. But no, I'm looking forward to this one actually. It feels probably also feels a bit more about an FA Cup time going away to a League One side, whereas before it was away to Brentford. We played Brentford a week before at home in the league. It was like, we played them already. Do away with it. So I'm looking forward to this one. Anyway, can I get your thoughts on Derby, please, or Derby when I was in Scotland?
Both. You can have your thoughts. I'll give you both. Yeah, they're look, the top of that League One is like a who's who of relegated, failed Premier League teams. Some really big clubs down there traditionally, good. Derby absolutely being one of them. But Sheffield, I wasn't even sure, Joe. I had a look. I saw Sheffield Wednesday, massive club down there. Ipswich have had really, really heady days. Bolton, I thought, oh my word, I was really amazed by the number of clubs that were down there. Look, they're down. If you don't know, they're down there because they've been punished. I felt at one point last season they were possibly going to do it. They had. They were swimming against the tide, obviously. I had Wayne Rooney there. But my thoughts on Derby, I couldn't tell you much. I understand that they've got a talented youngster or two there. I think they're in good form in the league. But Derby are how you don't do it, basically. So what you had was a load of the former owner. He's almost tried every trick in the book, a load of financial smoke and mirrors to try and get them up. Selling the... I think I might have this wrong, but selling in effect selling the stadium to himself.
And he did. He bought the stadium.
Yeah, okay. So I think there was a lot of that sort of thing going on, and the money would go into the team. So there was some financial irregularities. I think eventually a lot of it got uncovered. I don't think he made much. It wasn't trying to hide it at the time. But when you look at someone like Brentford, for instance, Brentford had a model which you just felt inevitably it would lead to success and it would lead to promotion. If it didn't have a finite limit on it. If it took another season or another 3 seasons, it was going to happen. It was inevitable because of the way they do things, way they do business. You know what? We'll just sell the next Ivan Toney. We'll just sell the next Ollie Watkins. Just sell the next Ben Rama. It wouldn't matter. They could build up revenue. They would scout and replace these players, and there was a real structure to the club. But it had a I think I think the Derby County model, if you want to call it that, had a sort of Hamburglar sense to it, where they were. It had to happen very, very quickly, or they were going to get caught out and caught with their pants down and get punished by the EFL. And I think that's just what happened. They just ran out of time, and it was. I think they tried. Had Rooney in there. It was a firefighting job. They had Lampard in there previously. They got close. They got really close. Geo, it didn't happen. But do you know what I'm saying? It had to happen then. If it didn't, then now you're seeing the result of it, basically.
Yeah, Mel Morris was the previous owner's name. He basically tried to buy his way into the Premier League, and then, like you said, he kept bending the rules. A bit like what Chelsea are doing at the minute with FFP, which is you find a bit of a loophole. You think, well, I'm going to exploit that, and he did that with Derby to try and get money into the club and to try and play within the parameters set out by the EFL. But it was a little bit underhand and a little bit naughty, and like you said, they came close. I think they got to the playoffs 3 times or something like that. Semi-finals twice and the final once, obviously with Lampard, Villa beating them coming up, and Villa are still in the Premier League. And, I think he broke the transfer record 4 times in 3 seasons or something at that club to bring in players to get them to the Premier League. And then eventually, like you said, they ran out of time a little bit. It was a case of, well, you're not allowed to spend your money. And I think, from an outsider looking in, obviously Derby fans will correct me on this, but it felt like the owner a little bit had money and said, well, I'm going to buy money. And they said, well, you can't spend your own money. You can't do that. And he said, well, hang on a minute. Well, I'm going to take my money away then. I'm not going to keep investing in the club. And like you said, he owned the ground, went into administration. They got points deducted after points deducted, which, I mean, they weren't that, like you said, they weren't that far away from staying up. And had they not got points deducted, they would have comfortably remained in the Championship. But you said Rooney was swimming against the tide. He was doing that with a bloody anchor around his ankle as well, if that wasn't enough. And then, Wickham and Middlesbrough then started legal procedures against the club, which prevented a takeover. Mel Morris is trying to sell the club. And there's quite a few people looking at it. Mike Ashley, there was that guy that starts with K, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Critchin or something. They were looking like they were going to purchase the club, but they couldn't because they had this legal battle going on with Middlesbrough and Wickham. Middlesbrough were suing them to say, well, hang on a minute, we missed out on the playoffs that year.
Sure.
And you cheated. So if you hadn't done that, we would have got in and we've missed out on potential promotion. And then when Wickham got relegated, Derby got a points deduction, but got carried into the following season. So they didn't get the points deducted that season. So Wickham said, hang on a minute, we've got relegated, but if you took the points off, we'd have stayed up. So then they were suing Derby. So they were getting sued twice. I think Mel Morris settled the Middlesbrough one personally. I think he said, let's settle this between me and you. And I don't know what happened to the Wickham one. But those cases prevented anybody buying the club because they were worth up to 60 million in damages. And when it comes to football debt, you've got to pay it. It's not like you can go to creditors and say, we'll give you 25p to the pound of that. Whereas football is 10 million, it's 10 million, unless you can come to a deal with them. But essentially, that club says, no, you've got to pay them 10 million. So it sort of really prevented people buying Derby County. Obviously, they've got, what's his name? I wrote it down. David Close in now. He bought the stadium in the summer, but he didn't want to buy the club. But he bought the stadium to say, right, I'll own the stadium. So whoever takes the club, don't worry about the stadium. I've got it. I'm a Derby County fan. I'm a local businessman. I own the stadium now. Bought it for 11 million or something. And he said, look, but nobody could get the club. So in the end, he had to buy the club as well. And he didn't really want to. He basically said, I'd rather not be doing this, but I can't let Derby go to the wall. So here I am.
But no one wants to buy a club without a stadium. That's the trouble by him doing that. And there was was obviously an act of benevolence.
But I think he was trying to make it cheaper, though. He was trying to say, well, I'll buy the stadium so you don't have to worry about where you're going to play.
Yeah, no, I see why he's done it, but he's not had the foresight to realise that, unfortunately, that's not going to make it an attractive acquisition for somebody. So, whilst it has probably saved him, it probably forced him to.
It's all the debt, though. I think they owed HMRC 30 million or something. So it's okay. So you can have the club, but you owe them 30 million before you've even got a foot in the door, and then you've got to. The EFL got so much embargoes and restrictions on Derby County today still, which prevents them from, well, they can still buy players, but they've almost got to go through a little bit more of a procedure than other clubs do, because we'll prove you can pay his wages before you buy him, thank you very much. Paul Warren, a really good manager. Obviously Rotherham's been a bit of a yo-yo club with the Championship in League One, which is fine because that's almost as far as Rotherham can go, barring anything happening. So I think him going to Derby, I think it's a good fit for him. I think it's a good fit for Derby. I'm pleased to see where they are in League One. I do hope they get relegated, and this is why Monday Night Football, Jamie Carragher was.
You do hope they get. Yeah, sorry. Do you want to just quantify that? Because you just said I do hope they get relegated.
Did I say that? Oh no, I meant promoted.
I know.
You know what I meant.
No, I know.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
know. I
Yeah,
know.
League Two. Get down to League Two.
Yeah.
It's Derby, not Derby. It's an E in it, not an A. So get to League Two for that. No, I hope they get promoted. But when I see Jamie Carragher saying Everton are the worst run club in England or whatever, I think, oh, behave, mate. Maybe in the Premier League, yes, but as a Derby fan, a Bolton, like the clubs you just mentioned,
there'll be lots of them. Yeah,
Scunthorpe at the minute, Birmingham City, they're all sitting there going, "What are you on about? Have you seen our club?" It's almost insulting a little bit, and it's this whole sort of just bubble. You're living in the Premier League bubble, and I'm guilty of that at times. Like I said, I don't watch much football outside of Premier League. I just don't have time. I don't have time to watch League One football and stuff. Anyway, in terms of domestic form, Derby County are unbeaten in 19 games, including a League Cup game against Liverpool. They lost on penalties eventually, but 19 games, you have to go back as October when they last lost their game, and they've won the last 6. So not only are they high flying in League One, closing the gap on automatic promotion, they are bang in form. Do you know any players, Gonzo?
I don't know. I don't know.
You do.
Players, no.
You do.
Oh, good. Yeah, tell me who I know.
You know plenty. I'll rattle off some. You got Curtis Davies, who's about 40 years old now. Craig Forsyth, who's been at Derby for a long, long time. You've got James Chester, who spells at Stoke City and Aston Villa. They've got Connor. I never know how you pronounce this guy's name. Is it Hoolihan? Is that how you pronounce it?
Houlihan. Is it?
Houlihan.
I don't know.
That's the Nordic one. He's Irish. The Irish one, Hoolihan. Houriane or something like that.
I don't know. I'm on the computer. I see it. Yeah.
How do you pronounce it?
I don't know.
You've been around forever.
I don't know. Anyway. They got young Jake Rooney.
They do still have Jake Rooney, but Houriane's there, always good for a 30-yarder once a season. Jason Knight, who was linked to West Ham previously when Derby were going through the turmoil in Championship. Then up front, they've got Mendes Liang, who you'll recognise from Cardiff City. Yeah. They've also got Mick Goldrick, who was at Sheffield United recently in the Premier League. And they've also got James Collins as well, who cut his teeth with Luton Town. So plenty of recognisable names. Not bad for a club that only had 5 senior players in the summer when we left. Now, shall we move on to our team?
They've got someone called Cashin. Good mates with Ivan Toney.
Oh, dear. Right, for the West Ham team news, we've got no Danny Ings, he's injured. We've got no Kurt Zuma, he's injured. We've got no Gianluca Scamacca, he's injured. But Ariola was back at the weekend, he was on the bench. And Maxwell Cornet is incredibly unlikely to be available. The talk is that he's due back in training, but him playing on Monday night, I'll believe it if I see it, but I'm going to say we're not going to see Maxwell Cornet on Monday. Yeah. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, Gonzo, because like I said, there's not any fixture congestion going into this one, but there is possibly a mini injury crisis, if you like, at West Ham. So perhaps you want to wrap a couple of players up in cotton wool for this one. So let's go through the team you would like to see, Ariola in goal.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, I think he'd have gone absolutely bonkers if he doesn't put Ariola in goal. And he probably would have watched our videos, Geo, as well, David Moyes. So so we'll assume he hasn't. But I would like to see Ariola in goal, certainly.
Would you like a back 4 or a back 3 for this one?
Back 4 because of the centre back thing.
Okay, give me your personnel, please.
I think for this one I would play Harrison Ashby at right back. I'd definitely be putting Tilo Kehrer in there. Actually, it gets a little bit tough now. I probably would play a Gerd. And I know it's a bit of a risk, but to what extent do we wrap him in cotton wool? So I play Kehrer alongside a Gerd to try and get some form into Kehrer, to try and get him looking, like someone that we might want to use because we might need to use him. And I'll play Ben Johnson at left back.
I've gone for Johnson right back, Kehrer and Agerd in the middle, and Creswell left back. The reason for Kehrer and Agerd, I think it's very possible that we're going to see them at Newcastle. It might be in a back 3, Ogbonna might be in there as well. But let's get this partnership up and running, and I think it's a good place to go and give it a bit of a trial. I'll be honest with you, I forgot about Harrison Ashby. I kind of want him in now, but I think just because of the likelihood of these players being utilised by Moyes for the rest of the season, I think I'll go with Johnson.
Well, can I just say, actually, because I don't think we'll have another chance to talk about it before this. When I was listening to your Jed Spence video, I mean, I was listening to it thinking, Harrison Ashby. We've got. I'm not saying don't get Jed Spence, but I was looking at it. Thinking, we've actually got one of these. You were talking about assists, and you would say we get this. It's just so frustrating. I wasn't not critical of you wanting Jed Spence.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
You know, it's just so frustrating. You know, so yeah, I would like him to play actually.
Let's move into midfield then. What you wanting to see there?
I want to see Flynn Downs start. I
agree with that.
Absolutely must see Flynn Downs start in this one actually. And do you know what? I'd actually quite like to see Flynn Downs start alongside Lucas Paqueta in central midfield, actually, to see. Look, lots of things have to happen, but it may well be that could be the composition of our central midfield next season. It could be, quite possibly. We stay up, that could be it. So I'd like to see it, actually. I'd like to see what they can do. I suspect it might be okay. So, yeah, that would be my central midfield. Obviously, I'd be playing with an attacking midfielder. I'd wheel Lanzini out for this, actually.
Yeah, I agree with Lanzini and Flynn Downs. I put Rice next to Downs, which is possibly a little bit risky. I was in two minds thinking I'd soon regret it if Declan Rice played and got injured Monday night. Sure. I think, well, what was the point in that? That was unnecessary, weren't it? But in all honesty, I want to win this game, and I'm not sure that, I don't want to go too weak. That's the problem. Yeah. If I take Rice out there, it feels like that midfield just gets weaker immediately. And so I've gone Rice and Downs. I agree with you with Lanzini. I think there's some players who just must start on Monday night. And I think Flynn Downs and Manuel Lanzini are two of those players that they 100%, they've got to be in the starting 11. Who's your other two sort of attacking midfielders? Then we'll get on to striker, although I know what you're going to do.
Yeah, well, no, you don't. You don't
I
actually.
do.
No, you don't. You don't. Well, maybe you do. Who knows? I don't know. I'm going to go with Bowen and Ben Rama. Go out. Like Bowen. Let's keep this form going. It'd be great to get Bowen another goal going into that Newcastle game. For Bowen to have, three goals in his last two games. That's great. More balls up the jumper, if you pardon the expression. Oh, he's writing it down. He's predictable.
Yeah, I'm writing down your striker.
Oh, he is. Not got a clue.
I think Bowen's too risky. I know this contradicts what I've just said about Declan Rice, but Bowen's our most informed attacker at the minute, so I would like to keep him out. And I've gone with Fornals and Ben Rama. I agree with the Ben Rama one. He was not good against Everton. That's allowed. You can have an off game. That is fine. But I want to see a reaction from him. I want to put him in and say, at the end of the day, as good as in form they are, and they'll be confident. Derby, and I had a look at the team they played in the previous round when they beat Barnsley 3-0. And I had a look at the team that they played midweek. They had a game midweek, by the way. They played last night. Wednesday night they played against Port Vale. So they've had a midweek game. We haven't here. I had a look at the 2-11s, and there's a lot of players that started both games. They don't really have much squad depth, Derby. I think they've got quite a thin squad. So you will see pretty much their first team out there. So they will have confidence, but it's still a League One team. Ben Rama will be up against a League One right back. Well, I want to see Ben Rama up against a League One right. I want that right back to go off that pitch thinking, bloody hell, that's the best player I've ever played against, because it should be the best player he's ever played against, barring the Liverpool League Cup game, of course. But Fornals and Ben Rama for me, and it's almost a shootout a little bit as to who starts against Newcastle. Arguably, both of them could, but I think in Moyes' head, I've got a feeling that Fornals is possibly in line to pinch Ben Rama's spot. Agreed. So, your striker then, who have you got?
Terran Moffey. Dale, did you not know? He's just signed. I definitely warming up for this video. You got a bit of paper.
No, I'm not going to say. You can change your mind. I can't change what I wrote down. So,
Mikel Antonio.
I didn't expect that. I thought you were going to go with Callum Marshall.
No. I wasn't doing it to be tricky to catch you out. I'm more than happy for you to predict me correctly. But I'd like a goal from Antonio. I say this, and I really, hand on heart, I hope this doesn't come back and bite me on the arse. But Antonio hasn't been injured in a long time. I'm aware as the words are coming out of my mouth. I'm aware, right? Okay, so I am sorry, but I'm not that superstitious. But football makes you superstitious, right? Maybe I should change my pants. I've had the same pair on all season. I thought they were lucky. Turns out they're not.
Can you put on the pair from LA to Leon, please?
I probably they're a bit of a mess, to be fair. I framed them. in emergency break glass. Yeah, I'll get those ones out. So I think I need a goal from Antonio. And so yeah, and I would. And it's not because I know I might have contradicted myself. I don't care about progressing in the cup particularly, but I do think finding form is really important, and that is more important for this game than anything else.
Yeah, I've gone with Antonio as well. Again, I was in two minds. I was a bit either, A, do you keep him out because he's our only striker at the minute? If he gets injured, we are snookered against Newcastle. But at the same time, for the reasons that you've said, which is we need him fit and fire, and we need him to go to St James's Park with a little bit of confidence behind him, and this might be the game to get that goal. The only other thing I'm debating about taking out the team is if you could almost do a little bit of psychology to some extent, which is, listen, Mikhail, you're the main man at the minute. You're not playing in this game. Declan's not playing in this game. You two are our two most important players at the minute. Sit this one out, will you? And just make him feel important, get him his chest puffed out for Newcastle. But I think I would play him. It would have been nice to see Mubama, though. And
yeah.
There's always room on the bench for the likes of Okoflex and Mubama with the intention of bringing them on regardless of how the game's going kind of thing. But I've gone with Antonio as well because it's one eye on that Newcastle game. And at the end of the day, he's our only fit senior striker at the minute. So it's keeping the team strong. Are you confident for this one?
Oh, no.
No, it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. And look, they've had a really tough time, Derby, and they're going to really enjoy this occasion, which 19 games without defeat or whatever. At most level, I don't mean any level. I don't mean like the dog and duck or anything like that. But professional level, that's going to carry some level of confidence going in there. They're probably looking at Ipswich above them, who are not in the best of form. They're probably thinking, "Oh, we'll catch them soon." And I think after you've had that, they'd have been worried they were going to lose their club. They'd have been worried that there was going to be no Derby County at all. And I think when that happens to you, an FA Cup run when you're looking quite good in the league is probably a right treat. And if you can get a Premier League team up to your ground and then, and smack their bum basically, which is what they'll want to do. I think
live on telly.
Smack someone's bum live on telly, quite right too. And I just think the stadium would be right up for it. It'll be like a party atmosphere, and I do not blame them at all. And it's exactly what they want, and it's the last thing we need. So those two things coming together make me not confident.
Yeah, I'm nervous for this one. It's just screams of a Derby win, really. They're banging form, riding high. A win like this would catapult their confidence. They're slowly closing that gap on the teams above them. And a month ago, despite their good form, a month ago, the automatic promotion looked a little bit unlikely for Derby because I think at one point they went 12 unbeaten, but 6 were draws.
Sure.
And it was a case, but now they're turning those draws into wins now. Like I said, they've won the last 6 in a row. So a win against West Ham would do the world of good for them going forward in their league campaign. We speak about what it could do for Antonio and Bowen and stuff. They'll be thinking the same. What happens if we can get our strikers going against West Ham? He's going to go into that next League One game thinking he's the best striker in the bloody world. So I'm incredibly nervous for this one. Under the lights, Monday night, live on TV. I don't even know if there's anything else I could add in which makes it feel like an upset's waiting to happen. Everything that you need to indicate an upset is there. And it's making me very, very nervous. The one thing that makes me relatively confident is Moyes will play a strong team. Moyes will play. He'll want to make sure we don't lose. He'll know losing this game is just bad business for him personally. I think as the club, we'll get over it pretty quickly. We were to go to Newcastle and get something, but as a manager, I'm not sure. It just ramps the pressure up tenfold if we do not get a result on Monday night. And it's not really something he can afford to do. So I expect to see a very strong team. I wouldn't be surprised if Moyes names his strongest 11 on Monday night. Maybe a couple of players rotated. Souček will probably start again. He'll probably do a couple of players rotated. But apart from that, I imagine 8 that started against Everton will start against Derby County because he cannot afford to not win this game. So that's the only thing that gives me a little bit of optimism. But in all honesty, Gonzo, I'm not feeling good. I am not feeling good. Can I get any final words from yourself and your all-important score prediction, please?
Yeah. I mean, this is in many respects, it's a no-win game for David Moyes, but it's not a no-lose, if that makes sense. It does make sense. Yeah, it's not a no. He can lose with this. The dent to the morale that you get by losing this game is quite significant. Whereas I'm not sure there's a massive uplift in morale to winning this game. I think we just maintain status quo. If we win it, we as you were. Let's carry on. Training's the same as it was the day before we go into Newcastle. We keep whatever momentum and confidence we had following the Everton game. Lose, and that dissipates. I think quite significantly. So, and it brings up. There's not a lot of. I think at the moment, because of David Moyes' because of the win, and I think because the fans are aware that David Moyes is probably not going to lose his job before the Newcastle game, there's not a lot of talk about it. Well, that's how it feels to me. Should I say? I'm not talking about it a lot, but it doesn't feel that there's a lot. I think if we lose to Derby, that all fires up again before the Newcastle game. Sack Moyes now. I think that stuff starts to happen again. So, yeah, I don't think it's great. Sorry, what did you want to say?
No, I was just going to say, I get what you're saying. I mean, my opinion hasn't changed. I'd still want Moyes sacked today. Even if we beat Derby, I still want Moyes sacked on Tuesday morning. But like you said, you get to the point where you just accept it's not going to happen. And even if we lose, I don't think it'll happen. This game's, in my opinion, this game won't decide Moyes' future. It might put a little bit of pressure on him. But I think he could lose this one, and he's here for the Newcastle game, regardless of what happens on Monday night.
But it changes the noise. The noise around the game changes. That's my point.
Yeah, I think the board are probably fortunate. While I just said about what Gallagher said about Everton, the board are fortunate that Everton's happening at the minute. The spotlight is on Goodison Park in the mainstream media, not on West Ham. Should Everton have drawn with us on Saturday and Lampard was still in a job, I think the pressure would probably be on David Moyes a little bit more than it is. The noise would be there, as you said. But what's your score prediction?
Does it go extra time?
I think it's a replay. It certainly was a replay for the previous round. It changes, I think, but I don't think it's this. I think it's the next round. So I'm going to say yes, it's a replay.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be a draw. I think we get what we don't want. I can see that. I really can see it. Whatever. Take whatever score you want. 1-1, 0-0, maybe 1-1. We'll go with 1-1. I can see a draw on this. It'll be a complete. They don't need it. By the way, that so there are loads of games in that League One, and they're chasing down the teams above them.
It's probably worth a lot of money, though. This is probably worth a lot of money to a League One side, especially when you're skint as Derby. I think.
Yeah, you get half the gate receipt for FA Cup.
Yeah, you get half the gate receipts, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes the Premier League club keep our half as well. I doubt we do that. There's no chance of that.
I'm afraid not.
Give me that.
I'm
sorry. Mr. Sullivan, we almost went into liquidation. I don't care.
I'm bloody orphan Oliver with his bowl. Please, sir, can I have some more? Get out of it.
We only had 5 senior players in the summer. I don't care. We got 25. We got too much. Right. Give me my money.
That's right. When we finish giving our best players to Sunderland, we'll chuck you some youngsters. There you go.
Yeah, this is the chairman that complained about paying 50 grand for hotels for us to play at Everton in a cup game. There's no way Derby are getting over half the streets. I'm going to say 2-1 Derby, Gonzo. I've got no confidence. We beat Everton, but we didn't play well. We didn't wipe the floor with them. We did enough to beat a crap team. This team has less talent in it than Everton. We've only been beating teams that are crap. We're only beating teams where the manager is on the brink of losing their job. This is not a manager on the brink of losing his job. This is a League One team flying high, a team in confidence, a fan base that's enjoying life after years of just nothing. You say that some of the players thought their club was going, the fan base thought their club was going. Well, here they are, Monday night, a Premier League team rocking up. Things are going well for the club for the first time in a while. It's an event, it's an occasion, and I think that means Derby win the match. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to say Derby 2, West Ham 1. Yeah. Anyway, that's the end of our preview. I'll be back tomorrow when I'm catching up with a Derby County fan to get his take on all things the Rams and West Ham and how he sees Monday going. So do check that out. If you've enjoyed this preview, do drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel. For Geo Gonzo, catch you in a bit.